Every Sunday morning, an old man quietly left bags of cookies at the bus stop, in front of the hospital, or on the doorstep of someone in despair. No one knew his name. No one understood the reason. But when he collapsed in loneliness, the whole town rose up to save the one who had once saved them without their knowing. In the southern corner of Cedarville, where the old asphalt road was nearly crumbling under the weight of tree roots and time, stood a small, weathered silver-gray wooden house. There lived a man named Jack Miller, 67 years old, a retired mechanic, widowed, and childless. Jack wasn't wealthy, nor was he famous, and he had no close friends. But he had a strange habit. Every Sunday morning, he would wake up very early to bake butter cookies. People saw him carrying small bags tied with string, placing them at the bus stop, in front of the nursing home, or on the doorsteps of poor families. He never said a word. He left no name. The children called him the Cookie Man. No one knew that the small act had begun from the longing for his wife. Anna, his wife who had passed away from cancer when Jack was 58, used to bake cookies every Sunday morning. They had no children. Anna was everything to him. The day she died, he put the cookie recipe away in a drawer and didn't touch it for 2 years. Until one day, he saw a little boy crying from hunger at the bus stop. Jack handed the boy the only cookie left in his coat pocket, an old cookie he had tried baking again the night before. The boy stopped crying and smiled. Jack went home and turned on the oven. From that day on, he began baking the mornings with Anna, but for others. Jack didn't just hand out cookies. One time, in the middle of a snowstorm, he stopped to help a young woman whose car had broken down. He fixed it for free, then left behind a bag of warm cookies. One afternoon, he quietly paid for an elderly man's medicine, then disappeared before the man returned. He often patched up bikes for poor kids, helped the homeless find old blankets, and sometimes paid for the meal of the person behind him in the supermarket, pretending it was a mistake. Jack never took anything in return. No thank yous, no recognition. He simply went back home and baked the next batch. A nurse named Grace, who had once received cookies from him at her mother's funeral, wrote on social media, "He's not famous, but I believe this entire town has been helped by him, even without knowing his name." The post drew thousands of comments. Each person had a small story to tell. "He once bought me a carton of milk when I didn't have enough money. I got his cookies on the day I was about to drop out of school. When I panicked after losing my wallet, he pretended to find it and returned it like it was nothing." The name Cookie Man gradually became the town's unofficial legend. One winter day, bitterly cold, Jack didn't show up at the bus stop like he always did. A little girl waited but saw no cookie bag. The next day, still nothing. On the third day, she told her mother, Nurse Grace, the same woman who had once written about him. Grace went to Jack's house. No one answered. She called the police. Jack was found unconscious in his kitchen, his face pale from a stroke, body ice cold. He may have been lying there for over 36 hours. Jack was taken to the hospital. He had no insurance, no family, and not enough money for specialized intensive care. The hospital was preparing to transfer him to a charity care facility. But Grace wouldn't let that happen. She reopened her old post and updated it with Jack's condition. The whole town erupted. The young woman whose car he once fixed, now a lawyer, created a GoFundMe page. The man whose medicine Jack had paid for, a grocery store owner, donated $5,000,000. The student who had once received cookies, now in college, sent in all her savings. Local shops, restaurants, churches, and schools began fundraising and sharing Jack's story. Within 72 hours, they raised over $280,000. It wasn't just enough to cover his treatment. It was enough to repair Jack's old wooden house, install a new heater, waterproof the roof, and build a small garden, just as he had once told Anna he wished for. Among those who heard the story was Ryan, a middle-aged man living in another state. He read the news and quietly drove through the night to Cedarville. He arrived at the hospital and looked at Jack lying unconscious. Ryan broke down in tears. He was the first little boy Jack ever gave a cookie to 9 years ago, on the day his mother was jailed for addiction, and he had no one left to turn to. He had sat alone, cold and hungry, and that cookie had kept him from giving up. Jack had saved him without knowing. Now, he wanted to do the same in return. On the 5th day after surgery, Jack woke up. His blurry eyes took in the hospital room, filled with flowers, cookies, handwritten letters, and drawings. A young doctor smiled and said, "You once helped this whole town. Now they want to help you back." Jack whispered, "I only did small things." 3 months later, Jack recovered. Media outlets across the state reported on the Cookie Man. He turned down every interview request, simply saying, "I just want to go back to baking cookies." But this time, he wasn't alone. A baking class was started at the local high school called * the Cookie Man Project. * Jack became its mentor. Children lined up to learn how to bake from him and how to be kind. Jack continued living in his small wooden house. The place that once held loneliness now filled with memories and gratitude. On Sundays, he still woke up early, lit the oven, and baked cookies. But now, he was no longer alone. Beside him were the very kids who had once silently received cookies, now returning to learn how to bake so they could give to others. Some brought cookies to shelters, some visited nursing homes, and some stood at bus stops, smiling as they handed warm cookie bags to strangers. On each of those cookie bags, printed in small letters, it read, "Kindness is not about being repaid. It's about making the world need more good hearts." And below that, the Cookie Man Project. Jack's story didn't end when he fell. It began a new wave of love. Kindness is like a seed. No matter where you plant it, quietly or anonymously, one day it will sprout and bloom right when you need it most. You don't have to be wealthy to give. A hug, a cookie, a simple act of kindness can all change someone's life. And then, when life knocks you down, the very kindness you once gave will return to you in the most unexpected ways.